evening, everybody. We've got some fantastic news tonight. And I just put into the chat here that I want to know what county you're from. Some people had just started to drop it in, but I want to see if we can get to 25 or 30 different counties that are represented in this live broadcast. As I mentioned, we have some fantastic news for all of you. The first thing up is Secure My Vote. Many of you have worked for months on end to help circulate the petitions for Secure My Vote, and this is the week. The signatures will be submitted by Friday, July the 29th, to Lansing. They have been reviewed. They've been gone through a second time, which is the reason for the delay. They also went through and verified and validated them again, pulling out anything questionable because of what transpired with the paid circulators in the past with the candidates. And I believe that that number is going to be in the neighborhood of 475,000 good, valid signatures that will be turned in this Friday. This only happened because of you. I say that because we had many setbacks along the way, and we've talked about it over the last couple of months. But guess what we know this time that we didn't know for sure last time? Because of those check boxes at the top that started in January, we are aware of exactly how many signatures were provided by you or by we, the people, versus how many were collected by paid circulators. Now, just so you understand, most every petition initiative is done by almost virtually all paid circulators. There are virtually none that are done or majority done by volunteers. We are different. From Unlock Michigan to now Secure My Vote, I am proud to say that in the neighborhood of 170,000 signatures came from you, the people. 170,000 of what's going to be turned in were done because of the signatures that you individually circulated and collected. We would have never gotten here, and we would not be able to get this initiative not only turned in, but we have the votes in the legislature. And what Secure My Vote will do is it will force photo identification to vote. It will stop absentee applications going out unsolicited. It will make sure that we do not have any of the Zuckerbucks in the state of Michigan. And those that do request absentee ballots are going to identify who they are when they send them out. It's also going to make it a felony if you do cheat when you vote. Or I shouldn't say, if you vote for someone else, fraud will be considered a felony in the state of Michigan. These are the things that you helped get to be done, and it will become law because we do have the votes. We need to get the Secretary of State to follow through. Many of you have asked a question, and so I'm going to cover quickly the initiative that is going to be before you likely in the November election. The reason this is going to not go through the legislature is because it was done as called Promote the Vote 2. As you remember, Promote the Vote 1 was in 2018. I'll cover that in a second. But the Promote the Vote 2 is going to be a disastrous thing that would literally end elections as we know them in the state of Michigan. It would become a constitutional amendment. Therefore, it would require 2/3 of the legislature to overturn any of these items. This must be defeated, and there will be millions of dollars to lie to the public about what it does and doesn't do. We know that 80% of all voters on all sides of the aisles believe photo identification is a good thing. I'm going to start there. This particular initiative, this constitutional amendment proposal, would prohibit photo identification requirements for voting. It would allow voters to sign an affidavit just attesting to who they are, and we all know we're not going to double check who they are. Secondly, it's going to require the legislature to pay the postage on absentees and for ballots, taxpayers, in other words. It will legalize ballot harvesting. This means that clerks can hire people to go out and hand out and collect ballots specifically from individuals. Nothing could go wrong there. It will allow local units of governments and counties to accept public funding and from charitable sources. Do you know what that is? Zuckerbucks is what that means. It means progressive organizations that will put millions of dollars in to hire these people only to work in those highly democratic areas to the tune of millions and millions of dollars, as we saw in 2020. And they'll be able to go out and hand out ballots and bring in ballots and drop them in. And again, nothing can go wrong there. It will require municipalities, are you ready for this, to have one ballot drop box for every 15,000 voters. Nothing can go wrong here. Allow voters to register for permanent absentee voting. This means once you've signed up for an absentee voter, they will just mail you an absentee application or a ballot automatically every election. If you happen to move and you don't tell anybody, well, we're just going to mail an absentee application every year. You never even have to request it any longer. Therefore, how do you verify those signatures? Well, we wouldn't need to do that. It would prohibit future post-election audits unless, are you ready for this one, they could only be conducted by state or county election officials. You realize that all the election officials, every single one of them in Oakland and Wayne and in the city of Detroit, for the most part, are all Democrats. And they are the only ones who could conduct an audit on the counting of the votes that they already committed fraud with. That's what we're talking about, people. It would require Michigan to have 9 days of early voting. So we would have 9 days of in-person voting, drop boxes everywhere, mailed applications to whoever it is, no ability to conduct any audits whatsoever, and the military ballots could be mailed back on election day, allowing up to 6 days after election day for those to come back in. That means that we can never have a result to almost any election for a week after the election, giving them plenty of time to go out and pick up those boxes that were forgotten, all those absentee ballot boxes or ballot boxes, drop boxes that if we just didn't, we missed thousands and thousands of ballots. We're going to go pick them up this week because we're still a little shy of what we need. That's what this proposal will do, and it must be defeated, and we need your help. We need you to spread the word. We need you to make sure that amendment, again, promote the vote, is defeated, a no in November. We hope that ours is already through the legislature voted on and becomes law by then. This would supersede it all because it is, again, a constitutional amendment. Election processes that is defined in our Constitution to be a legislative matter, those laws should come through the legislature. And what they're doing is bypassing the legislature, having the people vote on it, making it part of our state constitution, and it has no reason to be. I'm not going to go into the abortion one. I'll cover that on a different live. But that one is just as bad, if not worse, when it comes to what that will do. But this is our year. This is the year that we have risen up. This is the year that the grassroots is strong. And we are able to spread the word despite the media, despite the shadow banning, despite social media, and despite everything that we're facing. We are going to prevail because we are going to spread the word, because nobody's ever seen this in Michigan before. This is our first chance. On August the 2nd, that's a week from tomorrow, is election day. I share that for the people that don't know when election day is. That's our primary election. It's when we will choose our candidates on the Republican or the Democratic side, and we'll be voting on those on that day. The second part of the news I want to give you is fantastic news also, and that is that we did these governor interviews after hearing that between 50 and 85% of all voters in Michigan, primary voters, did not identify or know any of our candidates. I know most of you that are watching here, almost all of you that are watching here, have been paying attention and are engaged, and you don't understand that statement at all. That doesn't make any sense to you. But the fact is, as I mentioned, your neighbors, your coworkers, the people at your church, the gas station, the cafe, the majority of those people are not paying attention to politics. They do not live in the same world that most of us have to, it seems to, have to live in. And therefore, they need to know, and they don't get involved and don't normally ask questions until after July 4th. So here we are. So we did the interviews. All 5 candidates participated, and I'm going to just pop this up there just so we can see that. This is the link. It is standupmichigan.com/governors. You can also just go to standupmichigan.com. So while I'm talking about this, I'll leave it up there and then I'll take it down. This is where you can see a full length, hour-long interview with the candidates for governor. The great news is, despite all of the shadow banning and the inability for us to get messages and notifications out, or for you to be able to share things for that matter, as of tonight, we will pass 90,000 interviews watched or listened to. 90,000. That means tens of thousands of people know about one or more of our candidates in a way they never did before, and they, I'm sure, are talking to those around them. Now, my goal in this next 48 hours is to cross the 100,000 mark, and I'm going to come back on and talk about that simply because it's a gigantic milestone. We need you to share it, and there is a link. It came in an email. If you're not getting our emails, we need you to. standupmichigan.com, sign in, and all you do is provide us your information. It'll also identify you by county, and then you'll get our emails. We sent this around. This is just a handout piece, something you can cut out and hand out to people. And it says, you're invited to learn who deserves your vote for governor. It has a link and a QR code that goes directly to these interviews. You can also just tell people to go to standupmichigan.com and be able to click the watch the interviews. And again, you can listen to them. You don't have to watch them. The point is, regardless of what you think you know about your candidate, you'll learn new things. The other candidates, it is good to listen to because here is what we know. They are not from political backgrounds. They all are conservative in nature, and they all are Christians. We have a great group of people that have as stark a contrast to Governor Gretchen Whitmer as there could possibly be. But each of you have an obligation to learn and become knowledgeable and share the information about your choice and your favorite, and hopefully lead other people to listen to the interview of your candidate of choice over this next week. I can promise you that you know hundreds of people from your emails, again, social media, texting, whatever, in your database that you could say, hey, before you vote, listen to this. That's all. That's all you're doing. You're not telling them what to do, how to do it. But it's important that we do and continue to spread the word. I see a lot of you talking about your candidates on here. I appreciate all of that, but I want to talk to you in generalities tonight because it is important for me to cover a few things. This is where the interviews can be. Share this, please, far and wide. Put it on your own social media, and we've got, if you share this video, then they'll get to hear that for themselves. Now we are going to talk about the final, what has been 2 to 3 weeks of all campaigns like the one that we're in. I want to start separating truth from fiction, rumor and innuendo from fact. I'm not going to go into all specifics, because that would take us all night. What I want to talk to you about is what matters. What matters is that you choose the best candidate that you believe has the values closest to yours, who is going to follow through with their promises, that is going to enact legislation and stop legislation that would affect the freedom and liberties that we need to preserve and have restored to we the people. And all of you are going to jump on here and tell me who it is that is. I understand, but let's focus on the enemy at the same time. Again, it is the stark contrast of these 5 candidates to the governor. As we get into the final 2 weeks, what you see is begin to be a gray, as I called, a blurred vision of reality. How much we pay attention to the blurred vision can sway your decision on who it is you're going to vote for, or who it is you're not going to vote for, and why. Stand Up Michigan has always had 3 pillars: to care for the people where they are, to identify with your needs, to provide you with the tools that are necessary for you to be the solution, and to have you connect with others that are going to be the solution in your own community. The middle part of this is to inform you. We're doing a little informing tonight. And of course, it's to activate you, to be the solution in your own community. You be the solution. You volunteer to serve. You help circulate petitions. And you spread the word about truth, about freedom and liberty. And do it boldly. But the middle part of this is called inform. We made a pledge as a leadership unit of Stand Up Michigan that we would only post and only share information that is truthful and honest and has been vetted to the best of our abilities. That means that when we see things that are out there, we do not jump to conclusions, don't share them, we don't attack other people. We literally try and look into it and go directly to the source. It's like the rumor. Oh, so and so's, I've heard so and so doesn't like you. Well, you might want to actually go to so and so and ask them, because probably what they've heard is truth, half truth, or maybe not true at all. Or maybe it is, and there's something you can do to correct that situation. I'm just telling you that when we get information, we try and share that. Now, as we get into campaigns, we all know you're going to share the differences the candidates are of what they're going to do versus what the other one isn't going to do, how quickly they're going to do it, what they stand for, where their priorities are. You're going to hear more about their character, what they've done, how long they've been doing it. I deserve your vote because of X versus X. Those are normal things that happen in the course of campaigns. And we all determine who it is we're going to vote for by a number of sources, but I refuse, and I ask you to never vote for a person by a 30-second commercial or a soundbite, or by something that was spread by another campaign about someone else. Do you realize how ridiculous that is? It's like Gretchen Whitmer. Most everything that she told us for 2 years turned out not to be true. Everything that Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci told us turned out not to be very true. Most of what the media has told us turns out not to be true. And social media is literally a disaster. So why is it all of a sudden we want to believe certain things over other things? Well, partly as if it fits into our narrative and our candidate. Hey, if it gets other people to come this way, then it's worth it. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We're going to share it anyway. I think that's wrong. That's just me. Just me. You can do what you want. But I can tell you that as long as I am helping to be a leader of this organization, I'm going to at least try the best of my ability to provide you with truthful information and then have you focus on that truth in making your decisions. In addition to that, do you realize that as we begin to spread these rumors and this information about other candidates, we are taking our eye off the ball of educating and informing hundreds of people around us who don't even know who they are. And instead, they're going to not vote at all because they don't know them, or they're going to vote for somebody based on the same rumor and innuendo that you might be. And we may end up with somebody that you certainly don't want. And maybe the majority of Michigan doesn't think they want, but they may get anyway. That's the truth. We all know from the Detroit News that each of these 5 candidates have a bunch of baggage. And we also know that most of what they said in the baggage is just a bunch of crap. That's a fact. And so in our interviews, we ask them each about their so-called baggage and let them answer it. And then you can believe them or not believe them and go forth in your vote based on what it is you believe. It's called a free will. It's called a choice. It's what happens when we go into a polling booth. But as far as spreading that information, especially rumor information, or being distracted from the truth, is something that I'm advising you and asking you not to participate in. Instead, let's talk about the strengths of your candidate. Let's talk about what this governor has done to each and every one of us, how it affected you, how it affected your children, how it affected your business, and how you're not going to stand for it any longer, and you hope that the people around you will do the same. How you think that Lansing and Washington should not have an impact on what you choose to do, when you're going to open your business, how far the people are going to be apart, what they're going to wear on their face, when they're going to close their doors, or they might be arrested if they don't, where you can shop for certain things or can't, why your child's going to wear a mask on their face, or whether you need to be vaccinated to go to work. Those are the contrasts that we have with all 5 candidates versus what we've experienced for almost 4 solid years. If we're not careful, if we're not unified on August 2nd, we are going to get 4 more years of destruction. We're going to get 4 more years of being irrelevant because elections won't be fair and secure. Abortions will be free and legal and easy to get. And we will have more lockdowns and more maskings and more destruction of our lives than we could ever imagine. That's a fact. I'm sharing with you facts. Now, let's cover a few other things. We have everything from, we can go through the candidates. Ryan Kelly arrested January 6th. Likely to go to jail, couldn't serve his term. If that takes votes away from him, that's okay with me because I like so and so. Tudor Dixon does movies, and then it moves into soft porn movies, which is absolute lunacy and craziness. It's not what it was, but that's what's perpetuated. Garrett Soldano sold supplements that he said would cure COVID. Asked him about that. That's simply not true. I asked Kevin Rinke about the harassment charges and all those things that came up in a debate. It's in the interview. People want to listen to it. He gave his answer. You can believe him or you don't have to believe him. But you did have hundreds of thousands of employees, and I can promise you there's some that aren't very happy. I'm covering this with all of them. And the great news is Pastor Ralph did not really have any baggage. Imagine that. You should listen to his interview. He's an amazing man. We have great candidates. So let's move to social media. Social media, we have the establishment. We have Mike Shirkey is going to be lieutenant governor. An absolute fabrication. Shut it down immediately, but it didn't matter. Everybody going to spread it anyway. I called him directly, and others did too. I also talked to Tudor directly about it in the interview. Watch the interview. She'll tell you. Not true. But it was done for a specific purpose by people within our own party. Goes on to say, bought and paid for. Ranky, going to buy the election. I mean, you can go on. And if you want to pick candidates based on that, if you want to get down into the weeds based on things and people, then you can. But you need to look deeper into the things yourselves and understand that much of what we are seeing today are simply not accurate, are gray at best, and in most cases are meant to, again, have and change people's minds. I believe what really changed people's minds or what gets them to vote for you is on what you stand for, on the character of the individual, on what it is you're going to do to defend our rights and liberties. And I believe that's what most of you are going to vote for. People work hard for their money. People who determine after making millions and hundreds of millions in some cases, billions in some cases, and decide to put that money back to work to support others, I commend them to do so. I will proudly state, regardless. Now, do some of them want something in return? I would guess they probably do. And in that case, it's wrong. But as a candidate, because by the way, I asked them, once you win the primary, you're going to need to take money from everyone, every PAC, every group in order to defeat Gretchen Whitmer. By the way, and I'm looking into it and I'm going to post it. I'm going to have a video about it. Where do you think Gretchen Whitmer got $9.5 million in 2022? Are the Democrats complaining about it? Are the Democrat legislatures complaining about it? Just a question. Just a question. She has more money, $15 million on hand, raised almost $30 million. And what exactly are we going to defeat her with? That is my question. It isn't going to happen with $100 and $200 donations in 90 days. I am sorry, people. It's not going to happen. But the character of the individual, you will say, but my candidate will make sure when they take that money, there's nothing tied to it. My question to each of the candidates in the interview was, why do you not believe that could possibly be the case with the other candidate? I don't have an answer. You have to answer that for yourself as you go to vote on August 2nd. I'm sharing this with you because there is a lot of information, and I say, put away the distractions. If you've made the choice for yourselves, then spread the information of your candidate. Spread the contrasts of why you're going to vote for them, and once they prevail, why they are the right person to defeat Gretchen Whitmer and lead Michigan forward and provide freedom and liberty for the people of Michigan. Many of you have written in here Soros, and we're going to talk about this because the Detroit News does not. I'm not going to do that in this video, though, however. But I just want to share with you a list. By the way, where do you think Jocelyn Benson and Dana Nessel came from? George Soros bought and paid for, and not a single person on the Democratic Party gave a hoot when they elected them. We have to battle fire with fire. And by the way, if you don't think that there are things required when he paid them, he certainly did. And guess what? We got it. Lockdowns, masks, shots, you name it. It's the way that it works. It doesn't have to be that way. And we have 5 candidates who are non-political, 5 candidates that are Christian and have no political background. But once they're elected, they become part of the establishment. I want to give you one more thing, and I'm going to close here in 5 minutes just because I'm on a rant. I was a mayor of a town in Western Michigan for 10 years, 5 terms. I had lived in the community quite a long time, raised 5 kids in the community, was elected with entire transparency. You may not always like my opinions or where I stand on an issue, but you're always going to know where I stand. We revitalized our entire city. Sits on a river. Come and visit Nuevo sometime. By the way, transparency. Come and ask about me if you want to. Go into the beautiful stream facility. Ask the business owners. Ask the people in City Hall. Ask the police department. For those of you that question anything, I am as open book as you can be. My number is on Stand Up Michigan. That's my business address on there. Everyone knows where I am. And if you want to come and visit this little town, you can ask almost anyone you run into what happened during the 10 years that I was mayor. I'm not sharing that to talk about my success here. I'm sharing it because I want to share the other side of that. For a handful of people, for the entire 10 years in this community and beyond our community, believed that I was establishment. You wouldn't be doing this for almost no money for all of this time without getting something in return. Who's paid you off? I heard it every month for 10 years. The house I live in, the cars you drive, where did that money come from? That's what I heard. My family heard it too. My children heard it in school. My wife heard it everywhere she went. We were still proud of doing and serving, but understand that once you are elected, you are the establishment. You will be chastised by those who believed in you when they voted for you, but now have questioned it because you didn't do what they thought you should have done. You didn't do it quick enough. That's how politics works. It's the reason that people don't want to serve, because when they decide to run, they're chastised for what they're doing, who they're going to get money for, what their ulterior motives are, and what they're going to do, and who, again, is controlling them. Some people are running because they want to have freedom for themselves and their business, for their students, so on. I'm sharing this with you because I lived it for 10 years. It was more than 10 because I worked in economic development for almost 25 years. 25 years. I still am involved in the DDA, or TIFA, it's called here. And there are still people out there that believe there's got to be something. Oh, he must have made some money somewhere. Look, you can't get beyond the rumors once you're involved. I do that because I am defending each and every one of these candidates who have been willing to serve, are willing to step up, have willing to be chastised for months on end by the media, by our governor, and by many of you. And it's wrong. It's wrong now, and it'll be wrong when they're elected. Now, when we need to hold them accountable and when they do take a bad vote, then yes, we need to call them and chastise them. And the people that I've defended right now, I have also told when I think they've done something wrong. I'm talking about those that are serving today. An example, Mike Shirkey, when he voted for Elizabeth Hertel, believe me, he heard from me during the process. And how did you do it? And you're going to pay for it. And then when we were locked down with local health departments, I put it right back to him. You hold them accountable. It doesn't mean I don't like the person. It means I do not like the decision, and I don't believe that they were representing the people when they made it. We can do that, but we can do it with constructive criticism. And then we can move on and we can thank them for the good things they do. Many of us do good things and more good things in life than we do bad, but each one of us makes mistakes for whatever reason. Sometimes because it's just a bad decision. Sometimes because we know it's a bad decision, we do it anyway. And we have to deal with the consequences, and we have to be bold enough to stand up and say, I apologize. By the way, Garrett was one that said, I'm going to make mistakes. And when I do, I'm going to ask you to apologize. It's exactly what we want to hear from those that are going to represent us. I share this with you because I am asking you right now to make sure that you spend this last 7 days, this last 8 days, whatever you want to call it, until Tuesday, August 2nd, Election Day, to spend much more time now that you know who you're going to vote for, spreading the word of why they should vote for your candidate. Give them their choice. Let them have their free will and not share with them a bunch of information that is or might not be true. Now, if you want to share with them why you believe your candidate's better than others, he's going to be a better businessman. He's been here since the beginning. He went up and defended President Trump, and he's fought for a forensic audit. She can challenge Gretchen Whitmer better than anyone else can. Or he is a Christian man who's going to return Judeo-Christian values to the governorship in the state of Michigan, as Pastor Ralph says in his interview. All of those are reasons to vote for those individual candidates, and you choose the best reason for you. But let's spend the time getting hundreds and thousands of other people around us to hear the reason why we're voting for our candidate, and at the same time, knowing that we are going to have an incredible slate come August 2nd in the evening. And we're going to begin on August the 3rd collectively pushing forward with a slate of people, with a great group of people for county commission and for school board, who will, all those deadlines will have passed by then. And we'll have a group of candidates. We will get them on record as to what they're going to do once they're elected. And if there are things, let's say it ends up not being your candidate of choice that wins the primary, we need to get behind them and ask them those questions. And I will do that. I will get them on multiple interviews in August, September, and October to make sure that we know exactly what they commit to do verbally and in writing if we can, but verbally on video, to make sure that we hold them accountable. But we also want to, at the same time, understand that we push them to that 99th percentile of what we need, while we have got 70% of the people who don't know who they are by name. What is more important? We cannot defeat Governor Whitmer unless the majority of Michiganders show up to vote and vote for freedom and liberty candidates, not for a political party, but for the individual. Don't spend time looking at the TV3 story. I probably had 25 people post that up on our locals. Maybe there's more. My question to you is, who cares? It wasn't true. Was it done by somebody who worked at the station? Was it done for some conspiracy theory? Justin Barkley did a great job, by the way, this morning, if you heard him on it. Was it done by a Republican operative? Was it done by a Democratic staffer who wanted to create more division in the party? Any or all of those things could be true. And I say, who cares? It's not true. It has nothing to do with next week, Tuesday. And while we've spent a day talking about this, hundreds and thousands of people in Michigan have not learned a thing about our candidates, may be discouraged and simply not want to vote, and then will complain, by the way. And they also have not heard anything more of what Gretchen Whitmer is promising to do to us when reelected. Flint Public Schools has announced masks coming back to students. It's just the beginning. We have one enemy, a group of three enemies. Freedom and liberty will prevail, and we are the majority. Can we act like it? Can we be adults in the room? Can we not fight with each other? This will be my message for 3 months. If you get tired of listening to me and you want to listen to somebody who agrees with everything you think, then go find them. That's not happening here. We are going to educate and inform you of the truth as best we can. We're going to mobilize you in every community to make sure that we elect people to run in the offices. And by the way, there is still one more day for you to decide to run for school board in your community. Many of you are mounting, the counties are, look in your school district. If there are people that are running or for reelection that do not represent your values, and I don't care what political party, put your name in tomorrow. That's the deadline. We have several districts that have multiple openings, 3 and 4 openings, that nobody is running for those positions, if you can imagine, and I'm sure you can. Understand criticism will come, but it's our responsibility to take care of our children. It's our responsibility to talk to our neighbors. It's our responsibility to be truthful as we can be. It's our responsibility to pray for what decisions we should make for ourselves and for our family. And they'll be different from our neighbors at times. But in the end, I can promise you that we are better and we are stronger together. When we reach 100,000 views, I'll come back and talk to you again. Truth needs to prevail. Truth. Choose your candidate, be thankful we have choices. Elections matter. Elections have consequences, as 2018 did. We've got much work to do, but we are so far ahead of where we were 2 years ago. This is our first opportunity to get out the vote for conservative candidates all the way down the ballot, especially in your county commission. Pull up a sample ballot in your community and make sure that you pass that around or share that link so that other people can look at their ballot and choose their candidates and identify who they are before they go to the polls on August 2nd. I thank you for your time tonight. I look forward to talking to you again in a few days. Have a great evening. God bless each and every one of you.